They can talk all they want about how they'd never be happy in a relationship with a man who keeps her in line, handles his business, and treats her the way she deserves to be treated, but deep down, they know they would. And if you don't believe me, ask Joy Isabel, who called into my show to not only apologize, but to bend the knee after she realized that she would love to be with a man like me. Ask Lisa Faye, who made the egregious mistake of slandering me and found out the hard way that irresponsible actions have swift, severe legal ramifications. She hasn't been seen or heard from anywhere on any platform since, including LinkedIn. And her dating app, Smart Date, may or may not have been abandoned and defunded because of her reckless behavior. Today only, get up to 60% off all products, no coupon needed. Insane discounts on the Gold Digger Guide, the Shit Test Guide, How to Master the Game, the 49 Laws of Sharpe, and the entire Womanese series, and much more. You can only get these discounts at tsracademy.com. Again, that's tsracademy.com. Link in description. An ironclad truth that most men here are well aware of is that the hate is real among men. You guys know that I've had my share of haters over the years. But the reason these guys throw shade is simply because they know they are unwilling to put in the work necessary required to change their lives. Now, fortunately for men, it's never too late to start living the life you want. I found this community 10 years ago when I was 32, which is a lot later than most guys, but I was still able to reinvent myself into the man you see today now at the age of 42. Even if I hadn't found this community until I was 37, I'd be dominating life at 47. But for women, it is very different. You see, there are also women out here who hate on women who live better lives than they do. They hate on women who are in solid relationships with men they love and respect. They hate on women who are still in great shape even though they have kids, and that list grows by the day. But here's the difference. At around 29, 30 years old, it is too late for women to recover. By the time a woman hits 30, it's a lot harder to stay in shape. And if she hasn't developed healthy habits like eating right and exercising, and squashed bad habits like smoking, drinking, and sleeping around, it is way too late. And if a woman cannot stay in shape, if she has bad habits and has a high body count, she cannot and will not be in a relationship of consequence with a man of value ever. So when they see other women living the lives they wish they could live, they throw shade. They say things like, "I'll bet she's totally miserable being married to an oppressive, misogynistic dictator." No, she's not. She's happy, relaxed, and appreciative. Then they also say things like, "She probably eats rabbit food to stay thin." No, she doesn't. She eats clean, wholesome, home-cooked meals and works out regularly. Guys like B. Scott, Soupbone, and Raymond Wood, who have all been haters of mine over the years, would never admit out loud that they would love to live the life I live. They'll say things like, "Donovan's girl isn't attractive, and guys who lift weights are just gym bros, and I don't want to be like that." But deep down, all three of these men know they'd trade places with me tomorrow if they could. Well, it's the same with women. They can talk all they want about how they'd never be happy in a relationship with a man who keeps her in line, handles his business, and treats her the way she deserves to be treated, but deep down, they know they would. And if you don't believe me, ask Joy Isabel, who called into my show to not only apologize, but to bend the knee after she realized that she would love to be with a man like me. Ask Lisa Faye, who made the egregious mistake of slandering me and found out the hard way that irresponsible actions have swift, severe legal ramifications. She hasn't been seen or heard from anywhere on any platform since, including LinkedIn. And her dating app, Smart Date, may or may not have been abandoned and defunded because of her reckless behavior. Feminists the world over hate seeing women who are in good relationships, but it's not because they hate good relationships. It's because they know they can't have one. Which brings us to today's topic, and a big thanks goes out to Steve W. for submitting this one. Perpetually single feminist Janelle Testa is at it again. She wrote an article entitled, quote, "I'm painfully single, and seeing couples everywhere is killing me." Now, this isn't surprising, given that she pretends to hate anything that highlights her own failures as a female, so let's break this bad boy down and see what kind of nonsense Janelle is talking about this time. She starts, quote, "Is it just me, or are there couples everywhere you turn every time you walk out of the house? I feel like I can't escape them. They're everywhere. Seeing people who are seemingly happy together brings up a whole lot of feelings within me. I'm super emotional, and seeing them drives me crazy. No, Miss Testa, it's not just you." So Miss Testa wants to know if she's the only woman who feels this way, insinuating that she's somehow unique or special in this regard. But guess what, Janelle? You're not special. In fact, Every woman over the age of 30 who are covered in tattoos, have magenta hair and bull rings in their noses, who have spent their 20s hooking up with anything with a pulse, feels this way too. Then they wonder why dudes only take him for a ride when they're the last girl at the bar if he's got his beer goggles on. Banana gobblers used to be a rarity, but now they're a dime a dozen. The problem is that these girls think they're somehow special or unique because they have an unconventional tattoo or rainbow-colored armpit hair. And just like B. Scott gets mad every time he sees me posting pictures of stuff that he wished that he could do, it drives Janelle crazy when she sees women living the life she wants but can't have. They remind me how single I am, she starts. When I see two lovebirds all nuzzled up with each other in public, it is just a giant reminder for me that I don't have a person. I feel like there's a blinking sign over my head that reads alone. Even if others don't see it, it's loud and bright enough to ruin how I'm feeling. I then ruminate on the fact that I've been single for a long time. What most men don't realize is that women characterize and emote being single the same way they characterize and emote their ages. A 22-year-old girl will gleefully tell you she's 22, and she'll do so with $1 million smile and a twinkle in her eye. She acts the same way when she tells you she's single. A 29-year-old will tell you she's 29, but not with quite as much zest or enthusiasm. Now, don't get me wrong, she'll still have a little bit of pride because she is, after all, still in her 20s. And when she tells you she's single, her tone is still hopeful and somewhat optimistic. But when a 35-year-old woman tells you her age, she may as well have told you her cat died, because at that point, she knows it's over. She'll act the same way when she tells you she's single. Miss Testa's obsessing over the fact that she's single because it's not so much fun anymore. You see, ladies, being single is great when you're 23 because you have the luxury of time and options. But both of these commodities dissipate in a hurry, and before you realize you've had 3 abortions, 2 engagements, and a drinking problem, you wake up on your 38th birthday and realize that being single in your late 30s is not a good life. That blinking sign used to say strong and independent. Now it reads alone. I'm self-pitying about being on my own. If it isn't clear already, she says, I don't like being by myself. Rather than letting it be what it is, not a big deal and totally natural, I turn it into a way to beat myself up. I become a self-pity machine, thinking that there has to be something hugely wrong with me. I expend all this energy on getting down on myself rather than spending it building myself up. Like most women, Janelle is lying to herself and everyone else when she says that being by themselves is not a big deal and totally natural. This is why women suffer in silence. They cannot admit to the world that they need a man. The reason she's beating herself up is because her female hard drive is telling her that there is a problem and that it is a big deal that she's alone and it's not totally natural. Men, on the other hand, have a very different hard drive. We want women, sure, but we do not need them. But women who think they can be like men in this regard always end up miserable. Then she says she keeps thinking something is hugely wrong with her, as if to imply that she's perfectly fine, but that her conscience is giving her a false alarm. No, Miss Testa, that's no false alarm. There are many things hugely wrong with you, and that's why your mind is signaling the alarm that tells you to panic, which you are absolutely doing right now. I start to think about my flaws, she says. When I see a happy couple, I reflect on my own life and wonder why I don't have someone. Then I start to feel like I'm fundamentally broken because I have so many flaws that they're drowning me. I begin to think about how I'm probably too intense for most people and how I'm too much in general. All I focus on are my perceived flaws. This is the equivalent of a female with a bad attitude telling herself that she's single because men are intimidated by her strong personality, when in actuality, men can't stand her bitchy attitude. The reason this woman doesn't have someone is because she's overweight, covered in tattoos, and is insufferable. Further, the flaws that she says that she's drowning in are the side effects that come with sleeping around. Entitlement, neuroticism, lack of self-awareness, lack of self-discipline, impulsiveness, bad decision-making, alcoholism, the list goes on. Men of value do not commit to women who have an inflated sense of dating market value, are mentally unstable, who drink too much, and make bad decisions on the fly. And when you look like Miss Testa, you tell men exactly who and what you are. Women like this aren't intense. They're damaged beyond repair, which is too much of a risk with any man with common sense to invest in. And listen, guys, we can talk all the trash we want to about girls with a bunch of tattoos and piercings, but at least they make it easy for us to recognize that we shouldn't consider them for anything more than a one-night stand or a temporary friends with benefits arrangement. I feel lonely when I see them, she says. A huge wave of loneliness falls over me when I see happy couples, especially when I'm in public on a sunny day. I look around and it seems that there are couples on every corner. My feeling of being totally alone just increases tenfold, even if I'm with friends or family. It's almost worse when I'm with other people because I then feel alone in a crowded room. Not much to say here because she's not being dishonest or disingenuous. Chicks like this are lonely even when they're with friends and family because they don't have a man. That's really all there is to it. My jealousy starts to boil, she says. She continues. I get mad at the people who are happy and I feel like I could just scream. I start to judge them and get mean in my head. Jealousy is a dangerous game because it can bring me down all kinds of mental rabbit holes. Then I'm internally rolling my eyes and saying, ugh. Gentlemen, this is what happens when a woman finally understands that she will never have what other women have. Janelle wants to be happy, but she knows she never will be. And because she knows it's too late for her, she hates the women who understood the concept of locking down a high-value man while their value is still high. And she's right. Jealousy does bring her down all kinds of mental rabbit holes. She starts saying things in her head like, I'll bet she's miserable. I'll bet she's unhappy. I'm glad I'm not her. Which leads me to number 7. I always think couples are all super happy. She continues, the thing is that I have no idea what's going on in these couples' lives. They could have unhappy and toxic relationships for all I know. I assume that everyone is happy except me, but who knows who's actually happy and who's not. Instead, I should probably assume that they're human just like me and have their ups and downs. You see that, guys? The title of this article is I'm painfully single and seeing couples everywhere is killing me. Well, why would it be killing her if she really thought these relationships were unhappy and toxic? I know, because she knows these women are happy. Women know when other women are truly happy in relationships. Just because a girl puts on a happy face around family and friends doesn't mean everyone buys her act. They know when a woman is miserable in a relationship and they know when they're happy. Janelle sees all kinds of couples when she's out and about, and she can tell you which relationships are good and which ones are bad. It's the good ones that make her feel worthless. She doesn't even notice the bad ones, and this is why she's telling us that seeing couples everywhere is killing her. So in order to cope with the fact that she'll never be in a happy relationship, she tells herself, well, maybe all these people are in unhappy and toxic relationships. Maybe they just had a fight. Maybe they're super mad at each other. She does all this to make herself feel better about being single. But guess what? Depression isn't caused by speculation. It's not caused by hypotheticals or what might be. No, depression is caused by what is. And no matter how much Janelle tries to convince herself how miserable these couples might be, she knows that they are way better off than she is. Yes, couples certainly have their ups and downs, but that's not what Janelle's situation is. She is lonely because she doesn't have a man to have ups and downs with in the first place. My feelings are valid, she says, but not super rational. It's okay that I'm feeling all of these things, she says. They're valid and they're allowed to be there. However, a wise person once told me that my feelings aren't facts. Just because I feel terribly alone doesn't mean I am. I can validate how I'm feeling and also acknowledge that these thoughts aren't serving me. They don't align with reality. Sweet mother of God. And you know something, guys? I can't blame this girl for being this delusional. I can't blame her for denying what's staring her right in the face. I mean, she's got to wake up every morning, right? I mean, like, I get it, but none of that negates the truth. So let's take it from the top here. First off, it is okay to have feelings of hopelessness, depression, anxiety, and worthlessness. They are valid and they are allowed to be there because Miss Testa is all of these things. But the wise person who told her that feelings aren't facts was right. Facts don't care about your feelings. But right after she acknowledges the validity of what this wise person told her, she literally contradicts it by telling us that just because she feels alone doesn't mean that she is? What is that? That's like me saying, Rollo Tomasi told me once that women never love men unconditionally. But just because I feel like my girlfriend loves me unconditionally doesn't mean she actually does. Like, for real, like, how ridiculous does that sound? Then she says she can validate how she's feeling and also acknowledge that these thoughts aren't serving her and that they don't align with reality. So what she's saying here is that even though she feels alone, worthless, depressed, and jealous doesn't mean she actually is. That's not the reality. That's not the reality. Oh no. She actually believes that her feelings don't align with reality. She believes that her instincts telling her that the writing is on the wall about her life going forward are completely wrong and not rooted in reality or truth. Guys, this is the best example of a female's entitlement monkey hooking up with her rationalization hamster and giving birth to a spawn that manifests itself with these ridiculous statements. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, this chicken is way out there. I'm afraid I'm going to be alone forever. I genuinely worried that I'm never going to find someone I'm compatible with because I've had a history of messy relationships. I'm growing and learning to be a better me, but this doesn't stop me from thinking that no one will ever love me. She's starting to acknowledge the truth here, guys. That wise person who told her that facts aren't her feelings probably also indirectly told her that her history of messy relationships is going to cost her in the long run. Those messy relationships, those are the ones where she lied, cheated, deceived, had abortions, and did God knows what with God knows who. Messy means getting passed around, period. Yeah, she's learning to be a better person, but it's too late for her and she knows it. This is why it doesn't stop her from thinking that no one will ever love her. I have a big desire for a relationship, she says. All of this fear, sadness, and anger is coming from a soft place inside me and just wants to have a partner to love and be loved by. I've had this desire for as long as I can remember. I probably blame it on fairy tales we were fed as kids. I've always just had a yearning in my heart for another person. She's getting ever closer to acceptance, guys. She's now admitting that she wants a relationship with a man she loves and respects, and she's also admitting that she's been sold a bad bill of goods by Western culture in the form of fairy tales. Disney movies, romantic comedies, and every other kind of media out there tells women that they can eat at the man buffet all the way until they're 38, then bump into Bradley Cooper at the farmer's market and live happily ever after, even after he finds out about the tattoo of her ex on her butt, her 1 week fleeing in Spain with Emilio, Cristiano, Rodrigo, Carlos, Miguel, Javier, and Francisco, long story, her long list of exes that include a couple of porn stars, and her hilarious hijinks in Cabo that may or may not have included a drug-fueled orgy with 10 men. It wasn't just the fairy tales, guys. It was her bad decisions. Yes, feminism influences women, but we are all born with an inherent understanding of the difference between right and wrong. This is why women divide their body counts by 32 if you're ever dumb enough to ask her. I believe I have to make peace with being alone before I can be with someone else. She continues, look, I know all of this is a bit problematic and I have some work to do. My main goal right now is to make peace with being alone. I genuinely don't think that I can ever be happy with someone else unless I found happiness within myself. So as much as couples drive me crazy, they're teaching me lessons and moving me along my path. You ain't fooling anyone, baby girl. You have to make peace with being alone because you know you will end up alone. You know that you have no more chances. You know that men you want no longer want you. So you're going to have to tell us that in order to be happy with someone else, you have to be happy being alone. And that ain't gonna happen because women are never happy when they're alone. This is why women are miserable, guys. A girl could be sleeping with a different guy every night, but that girl is still lonely and miserable. Women need men. They don't want to admit it, but they know it's true. And this is why seeing couples everywhere drives Miss Testa crazy. The only lessons they're teaching her is that she'll never have what they have.